Welcome back, everybody. This is Rodrigo, Afanador, with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. Boy, do we have a treat today. We are talking mold remediation today, but on top of that, we're also going to talk a little bit of business and just the cycle of growing something and just the process of what that looks like. So today, I am joined by Mary Palermo, CEO of Rainbow of Asheville. They're a mold remediation company here in the area, and it's we're just going to kind of get into all the bits and pieces of it. I don't know a ton about mold. It's one of those things that there's a lot of information out there, but it's hard to know really how much of it is credible and how much of it's reliable. Hopefully we're going to be able to cut through some of that. It's going to be a learning experience for me. Hopefully it's a learning experience for you all. Before I bring Mary on, though, just wanted to say a big thank you to American IRA LLC for sponsoring the show. If you don't know, they're a local IRA custodian here in Asheville. If you haven't checked them out, or if you're thinking about doing any sort of retirement accounts that you get to control, check them out, American IRA. All right, Mary, welcome to the show.
Yes, good to see you again.
Absolutely. I know it's been,
it's been a good year anyway.
It's been a little while. So, when I reached out to you to set this up, mold remediation, the reason I was kind of thinking about it is we actually reached out to you all on a short sale that we did earlier, last year, I guess 6 months ago. And just that whole process, the questions that we were asked and kind of going through the reports, I was like, man, I know nothing about this topic. I was like, I'm pretty sure most people don't know very much about it. What's the, in general, consensus when you talk to people? Is this something people know about? Do they think they know a lot about, or is it just most people are walking around in the dark?
That's a very good question. I'm still walking in the dark because it is a very fine line and a very careful subject, and every case is different, and then there are so many different types, and if they're active or non-active and that type of thing. Yeah. So that's kind of hard to answer because each case is of its own individual.
So it's really relative.
That's correct, and I apologize.
No worries.
So,
part of the other thing I want to talk to you about, which is Rainbow, right? So how did you guys get here to Asheville? How's that process been? And then we'll get into the specifics of how do we go from being in the dark on mold to getting into the light.
Great, wonderful. Yeah. I'm glad to offer that to you. We found or learned about Rainbow February of 2014 on a phone call. A friend of my husband's who had been in the industry had said, hey, have you heard of Rainbow Restoration? We're like, no. So we looked it up, read the code of values. Yeah. This was February 2014. March, we went to Waco, Texas, literally signed the papers and opened the doors in April.
Oh, wow. So you just jumped right in.
Everybody's like, are you nuts? Like, it took me 5 years to kind of ponder whether it was that or another business.
Right.
I just think that the code of values, read them. They're on my website.
And that just sold you?
Sold, absolutely. And that's what we wanted to represent. My husband was good in the industry, and I'd been watching him working, for other companies. And so knowing the love that he had for the industry and then what Rainbow represents for the industry,
just as good alignment.
Great marriage, absolutely, yeah.
What prompted you guys to start looking at, opening up Rainbow? Was that a random occurrence?
Very
random. Or was it like you intentionally looking for something to do?
No, random. Strictly the phone call. His buddy calls.
You got curious, looked into it, and pulled the trigger?
And I'm just being completely transparent, but we had no money.
Right.
So it was all on lines of credit.
Right.
And so you can do it.
Yeah.
You set your mind to it. And I have learned that you do have to be as possible, right? We're all human, right? But you need to be honest, transparent, real, patient, and a good listener. So especially in my industry, all the cries and calls and sadness that we do get sometimes in the industry, it's not fun. But you have to understand that.
Yeah, because you guys are getting calls, typically I'm guessing it was when things have gone wrong. There's probably a lot more
they're not going to be excited they have mold.
Right, it's a lot, I was going to say, it's probably a lot more reactionary versus preventative.
Right, but I educate preventative.
Well, let's talk about, 2014, you guys opened the doors, March, and now it's 2019. I think you guys are probably one of the most well-known, or at least most visible companies here in the area for restoration services.
Well, at least we're well-known.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how's that journey been? What's been the best? What's been the worst? How have the ups and downs been?
Oh, that's a loaded question. How much time do we have?
30 seconds for each. Just summarize it. Yeah.
Understood. So definitely challenging and hard. A lot of tears and worry and late nights in the very beginning. We did start out of our home because I had the space. So why not? And we just recently got out. It was about a year ago. And I highly recommend that because as soon as we got out of our door and into an actual shop, the phones rang off the wall. So whether or not we were more centrally located, which we are, and instead of out in the boonies, if you will, but it's, you just got to keep going. You just can't stop and let things, because you're going to have highs and lows in anything you do.
Right.
And just can't stop.
No, there's always going to be a reason to knock you back.
Yeah, absolutely. And give up. Don't give up.
The office thing's interesting. So I was trying to work out of my house for a while. And I noticed that when I made the transition to go into an office and just like eating that overhead, it changed a lot for me because I had the ability to switch on and off and be able to focus on work better versus like being at home better. Because whenever I was at home and I was working on my house, I always felt guilty for not working. It was just a weird dynamic.
Well, that wasn't my problem. No? I would never get out of the office.
Yeah, so
yeah, I'm actually getting more freedom now that I'm
right. Well, that's my point, right? When you go and they have a physical office location, it's like when you're there, it's like this is work time, and then you leave and you're allowed to kind of shut it off a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you guys are doing now, and what are the typical calls that you guys get? Like, what's your bread and butter?
I'd have to say mold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that piece of the pie,
right?
You want it to be a little bit more equal. I mean, to be honest.
Well,
right? I mean, the pie for mold is pretty large.
Yeah. But there's a ton of mold here, though, right?
Well,
it's like I don't think
if
there's ever been a house that I've looked at that doesn't have some sort of mold. It seems like. What is mold? Maybe let's start there. How would you? Is that a definable term?
That's a better question for Ed.
Okay.
Moving on. No.
Well, okay. So what is the situation then? I mean, we were talking a little bit. You were saying like everybody should test their house for mold before they buy it, right?
Well, it's just a recommendation because.
And why do you believe that then?
Well, I believe it because of all the calls we're getting.
What kind of calls are you getting?
Calls are getting, they're buying houses and they're getting in, and then all of a sudden they see a water spot that wasn't there during inspection or whatever, and they look at it and find it there's extensive mold that had to have been in a previous issue. And again, I'm not trying to throw sellers under the bus. I swear to you, I'm not.
Yeah.
But who wants to spend a lot of money when selling a house? For somebody, I get it. I'm even myself looking at selling, and there's a lot of things I'm fixing now, so I can enjoy it. I even spent $20,000 in my front yard because I was getting water coming in. So I'm a prime example, and I'm looking at selling soon. But and so when you sell, you don't want to spend a lot of money.
No,
you don't, and I understand that. And so as a buyer, protecting yourself from your investment and what are you walking into. I just do recommend. It's not that expensive to test and just make for sure. And that's why, because we've gotten a lot of calls. People have bought homes and then they're getting sick or they're finding issues and that kind of thing. So
is there, besides getting the mold test or getting any, a house that you're going to buy tested, is there anything else that can be done preventative wise to, like, say I own my house. I've been living there 10 years already. It's not like I'm not buying it. I'm here already. Is there anything for me to do to like avoid?
For yourself?
Yeah, let's just say for me or anybody who's owned their house for a while. They're not wanting to move, but they're like, man, I think something's going on. How do you proactively combat mold growing or pushing forward or anything like that?
Well, first, if you don't know, let's say what you don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would recommend my husband Ed, who owns IAQ Assessment, and if not, there's others out there. But he has kept his cost quite reasonable because neither one of us are out here to gouge anybody or anything, but we are running businesses and you have to pay for services, but I think we try to make it so people can financially afford at least to know. But with that being said, because of his industry, and I'm going to sell him a little bit, because of his not industry, but his background.
Expertise,
yes, of 20 some years in the industry. Now let's add a mold inspector and radon, actually he does now, and asbestos and silica, all these things that he can test for. He can go in with all of his tools and give you recommendations on even just the visual based on his tools that you might want to look at this, look at that, this might be an issue and that might be an issue. So kind of just a home inspection outside of a home inspector.
Right.
Right? Because he's going to look at things as
The
indoor
deeper
air
layer.
quality.
Yeah.
And he can kind of determine even where it's coming from and help
So you
with
can
that
address
as well.
the actual root cause.
Well, I don't know if he can address it, but he can at least tell you this looks like the area or the issue, right?
But you guys could address it, right?
Well, and then once we know, right, yeah, then he can in turn send it to us.
Right.
But absolutely. And I will not do a job because if mold is there,
Yeah.
and mold is a problem, there's a reason it's there.
Right.
There's moisture coming in
From somewhere.
somehow, some way. And I will not do the job unless I know with complete certainty it's fixed.
Is there a common, I don't know, place or thing that creates the moisture or allows it into a house when you guys go into?
Again, a common thing, no.
No,
Because,
there's no
not really, because you
consistency?
could have moisture coming from pipes that you
Right.
didn't know in the Santa Claus space. Lately, however,
Yeah.
it's mostly outside and all the rain. And again, my problem.
Right.
My problem has
mentioned,
been, I've lived there 17, 18 years. The house is, 28 years old. And after time and all this rain we've had,
Just into the basement?
the protector layer on the foundation has
Yeah.
just dwindled. And so that's happening. And that's where all these calls
Wow.
are coming in. So lately, I would say that's the majority.
Just because all of the rain, all this.
It's going to find a way in. And granted, maybe just when it rains really hard and maybe not always, but it only takes, respectfully, 48 hours to be an issue.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know if people know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it takes
I don't-
about 48 hours for it to really become an issue. And if you don't protect that,
Yeah.
then it can get worse. And then it can spread. The spores can be airborne. Even when you think it's a crawl space, it doesn't mean it's not made it up to the living areas.
Well, on that, so it's going to happen, say 48 hours, it's going to spread. I think I've always heard that there's like mold that really doesn't matter, and then there's like bad mold. Is there really a difference? Is there things, mold that you can just like wipe it off, mildew-esque type of things that are, I don't know, arguably a non-issue? Or is like,
standardly-
in general, like you got to be pretty aggressive about it to make sure it doesn't become an issue?
Well, and again, that still might be a better question
okay.
for Ed, because like he will say to you, for an example,
Yeah.
when you said better or not as bad or
Right.
not healthy or healthy, he'll tell you he's not a doctor,
Yeah.
right? So, and each person anyway. So even
It's gonna
when
affect you differently.
exactly, and some people will have the symptoms or issues, and others in the same house may not.
Right. Yeah.
Cancer, for example, right? We all have cancer cells, and they all end up differently. Either it gets to us or it doesn't. Yeah. So, I might recommend that you get him here.
I might have to.
Because it might not be a bad idea.
I'm very much intrigued.
Yeah,
so.
there's a lot to be learned.
Yeah.
I do know that it can be obviously unhealthy, and it can, depending the individual, be deadly.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
depending the type. We've had some people call and wanting testing before they even buy. Absolutely, because they actually, this was in another state, but they're moving here. And they did buy a house that the wordage, and that would be an Ed thing again, it's some big word. That's the one they definitely don't want to see.
Okay.
It's a really bad.
So they'd had a bad experience before. So
Well,
they're
they
trying to
bought a
address
house and
it.
actually had to walk away from it.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad that one was.
That's crazy.
And they didn't want to walk into a next one. And so
do-
any house they buy, they will test now. But
Interesting.
and really the money based on the value, I think it's worth it. And like I said, he keeps the cost down. But
Well,
yeah,
what's the cost of peace of mind, right?
exactly.
So how do
exactly.
you really
Right,
know that?
right.
Well, I'm also curious, and something I'm way more excited about than mold,
Okay.
honestly. And it's just also like really would like to dig into the last couple of years
Okay.
of what you've been doing and what's worked for you to get to where you're
Absolutely.
at, and how. I don't know what tips and tricks you can give to anybody else who's getting into business for themselves as well, because most people who are in real estate work for themselves in some way or the other.
Sure. I'd love to that.
Yeah.
I'd love to offer that
Well,
to you.
Let's just start with that. Like, if you're,
Yeah.
I know, what's been the thing that you think, from a skill set wise, has been the most important thing over the last couple of years for you to, grow consistently?
Just being myself. You have to be real.
Just going all in on who you are.
Yeah. And well, you know what? Actually, this is what I've learned.
What?
When I started,
Yeah.
I was sell. I was gagging myself.
Right.
Shut up. Honest. And so I got to the point where you're not selling. Don't sell. Just build relationships. This area, and many others as well, but Asheville for sure is a relationship build community.
Yeah.
And my God, the fact when I remember the first day I went into a networking and I felt so much like a little ant and all these people and all these little cliques.
Right.
And that's fine and that's wonderful. So now that I know most everybody when I go into a networking event, there's always people you don't know. And they are feeling the same way I felt when I started. So I do start to find my little comfort zone, my first little 5 people or so. And then I go out and I try to meet 4 to 6 people, give or take how many conversations and how long they are.
Right.
And not about selling Mary or Rainbow, but getting to know them.
Who are you?
Yeah.
What's your story?
Yeah, exactly. And learn about them, but be genuine about it because, I mean, that, and then I give too, right? I'd rather give than receive. I can't even say if I've given to this one person and if they've even given back. Sure, that matters a little, right? We want
I think innately, like,
back.
there's some of that, but I think, as you said, like, being part of yourself, right? If you're naturally a giver and you have a lot of kindness inside of you, like, you're going to give a lot. And I don't know, I think, like you said, everybody's going to have a little bit of, like, you know, I hope this pays off in some way, but whether you expect it or not might be the variable, right?
Right.
Everybody's going to be excited if they get it, but are you going to get bitter if you don't?
Right. I just learned if you give, it will come back. And the other things I've learned is I used to say I can't, for example, or I'm not going to win or something like that effect. And I don't say that. It's hard when for so many years, I won't say how many, you know, I was saying I can't do this. I won't win this or I won't do that or something. And it changes your whole outlook.
Well, can I ask you about that though? How long, like, I know you don't want to say how many years, but are we talking like substantial amount of years where you're saying you can't?
I'll say it because it's almost in April, almost 56 years.
Really? And then you started saying, yes,
but well,
I can or I will.
This is very recent. Very, very, like in the last year.
Well, what happened? Like, what was the tipping point?
A lot of good people talking to me, Mary. Don't put that negativity out there. You know, because you can. You've already done it. Oh, I have, right? And so that I have found in talking to my kids too, my teenage. I have twins that are juniors in high school, and you know, that's a hard time for them.
Yeah.
And so trying to take what I'm learning out there in the business world and bringing it home, it's just making the house happier too.
Yeah. Have you found that there's anything that's made it easier to go from saying I can't to I will, or, you know, that positive affirmation for you to like practice that and for it to become more natural?
Well, it was hard. It was hard because I kept, no.
So how would you catch yourself?
You know,
like how what were you doing for that change?
I would actually say it and go, no, wait a minute. Let me rephrase that. Let me zip back.
Yeah.
And
so you're just a ton of focus
because some of it is
that.
just you just say it.
Right.
You're not even thinking. You're just saying it. It's just a nature or habit forming. So you have to work on changing that habit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that changes your mindset. And think about it. Talk to anybody. If you're positive, things are going to be positive. If you're negative, guess what? It's going to be negative. So as long as you put positive in front of you, then you're going to surround yourself with it, and that has to be a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's relatively still early-ish in the year, still quarter one. As you look forward to the rest of 2019, just in general, like with everything that you've learned and everything that's happened over the last few years, what are you the most excited about for the rest of this year? What are you the most passionate about as far as projects that you guys have at Rainbow or growth that you guys are hoping to see or something that you're learning?
Wow. Can you invite me back again?
I definitely can invite you back.
Because I do have something to share, but not just yet.
You can't even drop a teaser?
No.
Exclusive teaser for our listeners?
Really would like to, but if I do that, I don't want to break something.
Oh, well, definitely not good to break anything.
No, but everything is good moving forward. I'm extremely excited about the future of Rainbow.
Yeah.
And our goal and future is to be, if not the number one, but the top restoration company in Western North Carolina, servicing with the code of values in mind.
Can we circle back on the code of values? I have a quick question. How, you know, and I should have asked this earlier, and I'm just coming back around to it. But code of values, you said personal and the company overlapped. Was there one of the personal things that you believe in as an individual that stood out to you the most when you looked at Rainbow's code of value? We're like, oh my goodness, yeah, I can feel like I'm in alignment with this company, this organization.
Every single one.
All of them.
Every single one.
Wow.
And then I've also learned that if there's a question in how I need to deal with something, the answer's in those code of values. Like,
so if like there's a problem or a situation, you go
like
back.
responding in a timely manner, or speaking calmly and respectfully without profanity or sarcasm. I would love to, wish I could just read them to you, but I would like for you to go on my website and see them, because there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, I think we can probably get them included in the show notes.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Can get an idea of what that is.
That's awesome. But no, actually every single one I use both in my personal and in my business life. And it keeps you grounded. It keeps you real and genuine. And I think those are all really good qualities. I'm not going to claim to be perfect.
Right. Well.
Or not make mistakes or anything like that. But every day I learn.
Yep. Well, I wanted to kind of finish off on that a little bit. Is there something that last year you learned how to say yes I can and yes I will, and the positivity? Is there anything this year that you're thinking about or just being conscious of that's going to unlock something else?
Well, honestly, it's the I can. It's been hitting my new year.
Yeah.
And not a New Year resolution. It's just timing is how that
Coincident.
felt. Yeah, and I've always tried to be positive, but actually, not talking negativity like I used to. I would and not intentionally again. Shut up, right? Nobody wants to hear it.
No.
I'm just saying, because we all have our problems.
Right.
And so I am working on that. I am working on making sure that even if, let's say, I am hurting inside, or there are things going on inside, there's a few people that will allow me and let me kind of vent.
Right.
But outside of that, you're not going to see it, because I'm not going to make other people unhappy or add to their unhappiness because of issues that I'm dealing with. So I guess that is one big thing that I'm really doing this year, and I'm really proud of myself, because
I mean, it's a huge thing to tackle, right? Like
I mean, you want to cry, and everybody and don't you want to cry with me?
Yeah, I heard. I wish I could remember where I heard this. It was on a podcast. I think it was Tom Nolan. Do you know how this guy's name is pronounced? Tom Bilyeu? Bilyeu. Tom Bilyeu. He said something. He's like, there's two types of people in this world. People who think that life happens to them, or people who think that life happens for them.
Understood.
Yeah, and I thought,
Understood.
I just heard that like a week ago. I was like, wow.
That's
really,
well said.
Yeah, it was well said. So
Yeah,
either
definitely.
way. Any closing notes for somebody who's on the edge or thinking about getting something started here in anything industry for themselves?
I just say call me.
Yeah.
I love helping. If there's anything I can do, and I've left out a lot because we can't talk all day long.
Yeah.
But networking is huge.
Yeah.
I do handwritten notes. Try to keep up with the clients. That's not always easy. Just making sure they're okay.
Right.
And sometimes you have to learn to say no.
Ooh, that one's tough.
That's the toughest one, because I've had to let some jobs go because they either wouldn't let me do it right or things like that. And it's not easy. No. Nobody wants to say no, especially when you're running a business.
No, that's a tough one.
So yeah, but call me, because I'm happy to help.
Well,
Anyway,
where do we call you?
You call me at 828-333-6996.
And where are you guys online?
So it's Rainbow, RAINBOW, abbreviated for international. So rainbowintl.com /Asheville.
Yeah. Awesome. Mary, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you. Good to see you.
And when you can spill the beans, you'll have to let us know.
Drum
Can come
roll.
back and we can talk some more for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, there you guys have it. Another episode. If this was helpful, if you have any questions for Mary, if you have any questions for myself, just let us know in the comments. Reach out to Mary with Rainbow International or intl.com /Asheville. And see you all next week. Take care.